Hello again, this is Mad Marty, and for this video, I'd like to try something a little different. I wanted to try something a little bit more uplifting. One thing that I do a lot in my personal life is I do a lot of personal self-reflection. I look at things that I've done that I've considered things I've done well, things I'm proud of, things that I have not done as well that I wish I didn't make that mistake. And I like to reflect on mistakes as well. And as a kind of a nod to the viewers, I want to acknowledge that I screw up sometimes, and I want to give a little encouragement as to, if something like that happens, you can pick yourself up and you can recover. One thing that I wanted to talk about specifically, I think back to the first place that I got with friends, hopping out of high school, getting into college, and for most people, getting your first place for the first time is, well, the only time they get in the first place, but whatever. It's a very exciting time for most people. And as exciting as it is, mistakes get made. And that's what I want to talk to you today about. 10 mistakes that young people make when getting their first place, but they think is a good idea at the time. This list isn't exactly anything that, I put a little bit of ranking to it, but you could probably move around some of the pieces, to be honest. But having said that, let's go ahead and get started. For the first two items, number 9 and number 10, I decided to merge them in there, and that is not properly assessing the financial circumstances of yourself, and then not knowing your audience if you're dealing with a roommate. So, when you're looking to get your first place and think to your financial aspect of it, a lot of times what'll happen is you'll look at how much you're making per month and okay, if I'm making this much, I should be able to handle rent up to this expense, and then on top of that, I can be able to cover these bills, and everything should be great. And oftentimes it's not great, usually due to unforeseen expenses. It happens. But the next thing you know, you find yourself straining month to month, and whatever you're doing, you don't want to leave yourself like a mere $50 to play with after all expenses are paid. So just a little bit of pre-planning as to where your circumstances are truly when getting your first place really plays a huge role in your overall happiness going forward. Furthermore, when it comes to potential roommates, I've seen this play out several times. Yeah, I'm thinking about getting a place with so-and-so, and we'll find a place together and it'll be great. If you do that, just know your audience. Know what makes them happy, what pisses them off, what their quirks are, and other little subtle details about them that could either make or break the actual living experience. Is this person going to be dependable for their share of the rent or the expenses, or even beyond that? Let's just toss the financials out for a second and think about, okay, this person is clean, this person is messy, this person is way too OCD for me to coexist with. These are the kind of things that you want to be aware of about the potential benefits and pitfalls of anybody you want to live with. I can say personally, I have never lived with anybody that I had not known for at least 10 years, and it has saved my rear. And I would really hope the same for other people, because I knew exactly what I was getting into for every single individual. And pretty much everything I expected came to pass, because I walked into it expecting certain things. Now I know that knowing somebody for 10 years beforehand is not always practical, but again, keep it in the back of your mind. Number 8, trying to stock your fridge like you're still at your folks'. This was a big problem that I had early on when I got my first apartment. I was used to my refrigerator looking a certain way, living with my parents, and when I moved out, I thought my fridge had to look the same way. There's 2 problems with this. Number 1, it's really expensive. And number 2, especially when you're by yourself, you just can't eat this stuff fast enough, especially produce. When you're out living on your own for the first time, a lot of people tend to go out a lot. They order takeout or delivery or something. And you're just not cooking what's in the fridge often enough, and that's assuming you can even get to it. So rather than waste all that produce, you have to be willing to accept going to the store more frequently. And if you can do that, you can spare yourself a lot of pain. Next on the list, number 7, oversubscribing. And I mean that in terms of things like streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, YouTube, back when it was a streaming service. But YouTube's perfectly okay, right? But having said that, well, cable TV even, next thing you know, you're paying for all these extra streaming services at roughly $10 a pop, depending on what kind of deal you're able to find. But it adds up, and it's an unnecessary expense. And it's also unnecessary expenses that you want to look out for, because you have a tendency, or at least I had a tendency when I was having my first place, to buy a lot of things that I just didn't need, such as light up beer signs or something like that. But I mean, yeah, sure, it's fun, but again, it's another way to rack up unnecessary expenses and tighten up that month-to-month thing called dealing with bills. Number 6, empty liquor bottles are not impressive. Now, hear me out. Well, what I mean by that is they're not impressive to the right people. I've known several friends over the years, myself included, that we went through a little bit of a drinking phase, and it happens with a lot of people. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you can keep it under control, but a lot of my friends would like to collect their bottles and keep them up on display. And it doesn't send necessarily a bad message, but it doesn't send a positive one either. What I will say is if you make your place a known drinking binge place, then that's what's going to happen there. And guess what? It's the drunks that are most likely to break your stuff. True story. Take it for what it is. I mean, everybody goes through that phase, and part of this video is letting the audience figure it out for themselves too. I'm not saying I'm right, I'm not saying I'm wrong. I just know what happened to me, and having a little too much of a reputation for, a toss in the back house could be a problem. Anyways, moving on. Number 5, moving into a place because your friends are there or they're close. I've had situations where we might move into a place because we have some friends that are going to be a door or two down. And it sounds fun. And if it works out, it works out. It could be a lot of fun. The problem is once you're out of high school, the whole paradigm shifts. The balance is different. The energy is different. The priorities are different. And your friends have different priorities as they pursue education, career, family. And what can happen is you might move into a place, expecting to hang out with so-and-so every weekend. Next thing you know, they move out in 3 months. And all of a sudden, 50% of why you want to live there in the first place is no longer there. And you wind up, the things that were kind of meh about the place that you kind of overlooked before are all of a sudden much more important. And this is even worse if you get a place through purchase, like if you actually buy a home and you factor in proximity to a close friend. So watch out for that, because it'll either suck up a year of your life or worse if things go wrong. Number 4, buying all new furniture. Excuse me. And this is a big source of debt early on. You could easily drop $600-800 trying to get all new furniture, whether it be new living room set or end tables or bookshelves or whatever, trying to spruce the place up and make it look, more impressive. This is a major source of debt early on, and people talk about college debt all the time. Guess what? This is part of that. So if you're getting your own place for the first time, look at the hand-me-down. Look at this stuff that your folks don't want or relatives don't want. That stuff that's hanging out in the basement that they would love to get rid of. Go ahead and get yourself some of that stuff and save yourself a few bucks. And when you're darn good and ready, when you're really at a point where you can support your own buying habits, then go ahead and get your new living room set, a year or two down the road. You don't necessarily need it right out of the gate. Number 3, and this is a biggie. I might get some frowns for this one, but when you get your own place, getting a puppy could be one of the biggest disasters that you ever do. I see this more frequently with young couples. You know, they're dating, things are getting more serious, maybe they're engaged, maybe they're married, or maybe they're just getting their first place. And I'll have these conversations with them, and they'll say, yeah, things are going really good, and we're really thinking about getting a puppy. And right there, the record player just stops. It's like, are you sure? Because a lot of these young people in particular, and I'm talking about you moderately successful young professionals, or those pursuing their big-time educational dreams, you get a puppy, you say goodbye to your personal freedom. You know, a lot of young people like to travel, a lot of young people like to go out. If you get a puppy, you gotta be back within 4 hours or there will be consequences. Puppies destroy things. Puppies make messes. Puppies require a lot of work. If you want to be young and enjoy your life the way that 20-somethings do, hold off on the puppy. I mean, some people make it work, but you better be able to make that dog incorporated into your day-to-day life from start to finish. I mean, that puppy better be coming with you to 90% of the things that you go to. So, just my observations with puppies. I love dogs. I love my dogs. I'm happy I had them, but it's a commitment, and it's one that is often underestimated. And then number 2, another mistake that people make is they don't realize that every piece of community use property needs to be expendable. What I mean by that is you have roommates and you tell yourself, or you tell your roommates, okay, we got our new place. Guess what? I got the plates covered. We don't have to worry about plates. Or I got the glasses covered. We don't need to worry about glasses. I got a TV set. I got the latest gaming systems. I got a great PC. Well, everything will be fun. Everything will be great. Every piece of community property that you have in the living room is at potential risk for destruction. That's just the way it is. Especially if you deal with individuals that like to toss a few back here and there. Stuff gets destroyed. And especially if you have that puppy, stuff gets destroyed. And it's better that you know about it in advance than hating on your roommate after the fact. So just be aware of it. Anything that you put out there is at risk. And the number one thing that people don't really think about when they get their new place, and they think everything that they're getting is a great idea, but they don't realize that, well, for most of us, we're not going to die in our first place. It doesn't need to be perfect. We don't need to design our first independent home to impress others. Instead, gear it more towards practical day-to-day activity that's going to make you comfortable. Don't worry about impressing your mom or friends, because quite frankly, they're not going to be living there. This is your place. This is where you got to go every night and be comfortable. But that being said, if you're going to impress anybody, impress yourself. And that's something that I'm really serious about. So take these items any way you want to. I'm not saying I got it right. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just talking based on what I've experienced personally and what I've observed. And if this little conversation can help spare you a little bit of grief, whether it be 3 months or 3 years worth of grief, then we did something right today. Well, and real quick, I'd just like to shift gears. I just wanted to take a minute and introduce, by popular demand, my good friend here, Ghost Z. Ghost Z, say hello to the audience.
Hello.
Ghost Z, I was wondering, because I was talking about, people getting their own place for the first time. You're looking forward to getting your own place someday, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's one thing that you would want when you get your own place? What do you need to have?
A house.
Oh, okay, a house is good. But what do you want in it? What's one thing that you absolutely want inside that house?
A bedroom.
What do you want in that bedroom?
A TV.
So you want a TV in your bedroom, right? Why do you want that?
So you can watch on it and play.
Okay, I guess that works. You heard it here from the pro. And I want to just thank everybody for tuning in, and I just want to say again, this is Mad Marty, reminding you to do what's responsible, avoid what's irresponsible, make the most of what you got, and get respect. Mad respect. See you next time.